Okay, so in this episode, we're gonna talk about what Hit Boy and his comments that he made about producers, which is weird. I think I would never get the chance to actually talk about this. So we're gonna talk about this, take out some few points, and just see what happens. For the most part, I think that's the best to kind of break this down. And so before we get into this, people have said, and I'm not entirely sure, I think The Alchemist might have made that Big Sean one, I'm not sure. But The Alchemist made a beat, and I think he made it similar to the Control verse that Big Sean did for Kendrick Lamar, which Kendrick was calling out artists, so I get it. You know, it's a civil rivalry, and it gets other people's names out there. That's what that Control verse did. It got people to listen to J-Rock, Drake, J. Cole, a little bit, and to listen to Kendrick to determine who was the best in that category, which we don't have the answer for. But so this is going to be an interesting take from me, I think, because there are a few points in here I agree with, a few points that I don't necessarily understand. And we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about these, but the hip hop profession, I don't know. Not the hip hop profession, but the producer side of it is I don't know much about. And I think what was it? But I think we will see. I'm not, and this requires some background information because I'm not entirely sure about this. I'm not entirely sure, and I think this is, and we'll get into it. And to some extent, I think I'm right, but I'm not entirely sure. But we're gonna talk about that. Let's see when this one's going right into it. Okay, so let me reword this real quick. So basically, Hit Boy talks about a lot of situations, and this is weird. I think this brings a lot of producers into that control situation that Kendrick did with a lot of rappers, and it brings up more questions kind of than answers, and it's solely because he comes at Kanye like a producer, and then he comes at Mustard as a producer. He comes as Metro as a producer, and I swear he says Child's Play, but I'm not sure. He might have said Child's Way, and I thought it was Child's Play. Anyway, but this is the thing. It's a weird feeling to talk about this solely because it's the way he does it. Okay, so we're gonna break this down bit by bit. He says, I'm not liked by many. I'm the best student that Kanye had. You know, I'm the best student that Kanye had, and not everyone believed, you know. And he's not going this back and forward. And it's almost weird, right? Because Kanye, roughly producer wise, he's not had that many students to teach producing to. He just hasn't, compared to like Dr. Dre, you know, or a DJ Khaled, where they've had artists that they, you know, have taught to produce music, and Kanye really hasn't. So that I'm the best student that Kanye ever had production wise, and to put stuff together, it's noticeable. And then he says that people were worried about his style, but they can't because he released 2 albums. Thought he was losing it, so he released 2 albums, which this is the thing. And so this is roughly my situation. Hit Boy dropped, what was it? Was it Heroes and Villains? And then the 2 albums by Nas, right? So we will argue King's Disease, is it 3 and 4, or is it 2 and 3? Anyway, his King Disease run with Nas has won him a Grammy. So we'll say that those were his hits, and he hasn't lost touch. It also tweaked Nas' way of picking beats to make a Nas album more cohesive over sound, where that beat travels all the way through, which is great. Without a doubt, I love the way that builds itself up. And so for that standard alone, he's calling out a lot of producers. And when he calls out a lot of producers, he says, "I used to be homeboys," which is an infamous line. He says, I used to always be homeboys, which is an infamous line because Kendrick's control verse goes, I'm usually homeboys with the guys I'm about to put a spotlight on in the song, and so I understand when people are saying this reminds me of Kendrick's verse on that control verse, which is weird, but it's definitely a song that I think if we listen to a Nas beat, it is something that we love about Nas. It is definitely something that, there are not too many people that many people can say that they did it, right? Especially with like Nas. It's great. But to learn your skills from Kanye, and he says, I'm not going back and forth like Martin and Pam, which is a great line to me because it ties in with the culture a little bit because it ties, because I haven't heard a Martin and Pam line from Martin in a while. So to hear it's great. But to hear that Alchemist beat, it makes me wonder if the Alchemist created that Big Sean and Kendrick control verse. Because if it did, that's great. And Alchemist is great at what he does, but he's not given that light. And we could talk about that a whole nother conversation, a whole nother day. He says it's weird. He said they'll stab you in your back. And they will you'll have jewelry in your hearse, and they'll rob you in the hearse, which that's what we're realizing now with like situations like King Von, Young Dolph. We realized with situations like that, Pop Smoke for that example, P&D Rock, we've realized that there are a lot of people that were close with them, people that put them in terrible situations that they ended up being dying for, which we could argue is a weird thing and it shouldn't happen, but it does happen. So what is the next thing is I've never heard Metro with a boom bap, which is weird because I think when most people think about Metro Boom or Metro, they think of his more his club mixes where they don't have like a boom and a bap. They're just they don't have like that traditional 808 sound to it. But I don't, and I say this because I don't think an 808 has affected Metro's creative style and being caught out there. He says I know Metro can do that ratchet, that gangster rap or kind of like that hip hop, but can he chop a soul song up, which is weird. I think that's true because if Mustard's Roddy Ricch song Ballin' did amazing numbers, but can he do a chopped and screwed like that? Like, can he do a chopped soul? Like, can he do that? Because that'd be amazing. Like, he's giving him his credit that he can do, DJ Mustard can do what he do, but can he do like a Bryson Tiller song and cut that soul, cut the soul song up, right? Like, that's crazy, and that'd be fun to get a Mustard produced song that's in an R&B. He says, I saw the guy's conversation about and Hitmaker and Hit Boy. I normally get these names mixed up, and so Hitmaker and Hit Boy, right? So he's saying I'll take the hit out of his name and show him basically what I can do, which is funny to me because and Hitmaker makes this point, but he says that I'm on the air more, I'm getting more commercial plays, which is a weird take. I think to take in 2023, that's a weird take, and that's solely because, and we've had this conversation. I've had this conversation with a lot of people, and we'll kind of debate this here, right here. Kind of debate this part, and I don't know that debating this part is even worth debating, but I'm not cutting this. I'm gonna debate this part. The part is basically, do people even listen to the radio anymore? Like, I think besides, what is it, the Steve Hart? What is it, Steve? Like if you like prank TV shows or, DF Hewley, I think that's the same. If I mix that up, I'm extremely sorry. If I messed the name up, I'm sorry, because I know I messed it up. But he was just saying that, there are certain situations where, and we could argue that with Spotify and everything being digital, there aren't many people that listen to the radio anymore because they're Bluetooth in their phone or Apple CarPlay in their phone and listen to their own music and not discovering new music on the radio. So that stance of, well, my song's on the radio, does that make it any difference? And I mean, we could argue that, Sway is a radio show, how Hot 10 something is a radio station. We can argue that Flex is a radio station and that they make their money off of stuff that isn't streamed, right? But it's, and occasionally the LA Leakers, when they drop like a freestyle with an artist that somebody's been waiting for, that's, is it really worth it when people themselves, and this could be argued that, and I don't think I'd ever take this side if you had asked me on another conversation, but this conversation is radio play even important anymore as a craft? Like, does it matter if your song's being played on the radio? Because if it is, that's cool, and you could say that that's how people discover songs and then they get it on Spotify. But then we argue, what about people that find it on TikTok or Instagram or, God, any other social media? Like, how do we argue that, it's beneficial to listen to the radio when a lot of people don't listen to the radio? For me, personally, I don't really listen to the radio. I give, the radio, an hour listen a week. But it's, what do I listen to when I'm stuck in my own head listening to music? I'm mostly playing my own music and repeat. Because I have, 300 songs on my phone? 300? YouTube. I'm not huge on that radio unless I'm listening to a prank phone call or something, right? So the question is, he gets more radio plays. I get more radio plays. That's all I'm saying is a weird argument that I've heard people make before, but this is the thing, is radio plays as important as it once was. Because, for example, for him saying that he gets radio plays, if it was a Keisha Cole's song, yeah, they get Mary J. Blige songs, and it plays no matter what, right? In the early 2000s, but I don't know if the radio is as important. And I think that would be the question to answer this question. He says, I get more radio plays. That's all I'm saying. And Hip was saying, well, I don't, club plays versus radio plays or streams versus radio plays doesn't really matter. Just, we would have to argue what equates to what. Does music plays equate to a certain amount of downloads? If it does, okay. But then what does streaming equate to? And that's I'm so interested in what equates to what. I really am, because that's a whole conversation in itself. But he says they'll rob you for your publishing and build $1 million, right? Which is a weird thing, because I think Rick Ross established it. A lot of people established it that they, in many of these contracts they sign with labels, they get no publishing, so they have to make it up with co-writing songs for other people to get publishing rights and stuff like this. Because they, in their deals, I don't know. I think this is another topic where we talk about producers or anything where we talk about, in a weird way, we talk about, before you sign these deals, get them read over by legal contracts and know what you want. Because I don't understand how Michael Jackson apparently produces as well. So DJ Khaled's probably contract with YMCMB was probably terrible, but he was able to get out of that contract. I'm not sure about other producers in this current age that you would sign a deal that takes away your publishing, but you can do any beats you want to make. That's fine. But if you don't own the publishing to these beats and they own it for a certain amount of time, why are we still doing that? Why are we still giving to receive an advance that you're going to have to pay back anyway? That brings up a whole nother conversation that I would love to bring up, because I just have questions about that. I just have questions about it, because I don't understand. At what point do we go, yeah, we want to make music, we want to get famous, but is it worth our publishing rights, our record rights? Is it worth losing our masters until we pay them off? Is it worth it? And I don't know. Publishing, so a lot of people, and that's what J. Cole was saying when he said, if you keep going on track, that's how you make your money. You don't make it from releasing songs and publishing. So, that's how you pay back advances, and that's I don't know. It's a weird thing. I didn't realize producers sign publishing deals, and I don't know why. I don't know why that came out. I didn't realize they signed publishing deals. It says he built $1 million. And came out, he came out of the situations that made it a dream, which that's true. Hillboy made it a dream. He's done what a lot of producers want to do. He's been able to make money and make albums with artists that he loves, and that's all I can say. And this is the thing. This is the thing. And I wanted to add this to this because it was an article that came out a couple days after Hillboy released this song, or the snippet was released. It said that Hillboy Metro Boom signed his. He sold his He sold some of his collection that had Drake. Probably has some Future in there too. He sold some of his catalog for $70 million. But I'm just trying to figure out, over long term, how do we determine who's a great producer? Because we have producers like DJ Khaled that have co-producers and stuff like that work with him to make beats. But then you have like the producer like Timbaland, Trace, Swiss Beats. Really, I mean, it's just, how do we determine who's the best producer at this time would be the question. I don't know if we would ever get an answer to it, because that answer is too vague, right? Because you'd have to find 3 or 4 categories. Each producer would have to make 4 different beats for each category, and then we determine which one gets more plays. But I don't think they overlap anywhere. Like, I would love to hear like a chop and screwed version, like a chop and soul version, like a not Mustard. Yeah, wait. DJ, I'm trying to figure out if this is the same. Is it? I think there might be 2 DJ Mustards. One DJ Mustard that worked on the that Kanye, that Lil Wayne always gets to produce. That'd be my question. Who makes the mixtapes? And I think the mixtapes would be the thing. Like, can he do a mixtape, or can he do a production of a mixtape? Because who was the producers? Like, they were great, but I just don't. Because for some reason I think is it not DJ Mustard? I'm trying to figure it out. Yeah, I know Street Runner is one of Lil Wayne's producers, but I'm just trying to figure out, because he has in total 26 produced albums, and so I'm trying to figure out who executive produced these albums or these mixtapes. But I don't for reference, I don't know. Is it DJ Mustard that did it? But I'm not entirely sure who produced them. I think that'd be a question, and then to rate Lil Wayne's albums would be great. But I don't know who the producer is. Like, I don't know. I don't know who the producer. Like, for some reason, I don't know who the producer in my mind. Besides the original Street Runner that does normal Lil Wayne's work in general, I don't know who the producer was. Is it not DJ Mustard? I don't know who. Is it not DJ Mustard? I don't know who it was. It's a famous producer, and I don't know who the producer. I have no idea who the producer is. When I find a producer, I'll get right back to it. But overall, like, I don't know if the producing makes a difference. But that's as I said, these are conversations we should be having. But I don't know if it has who the producer. Like, I have a lot of Lil Wayne's mixtapes, but I'm not sure if it says who the producer is. So we'll see. But But the question is, who's a better producer? And does Hit Boy? He did the Control verse the way he should have done it, but I think there should have been more shots thrown. And as Kendrick did, he gave some positives and he gave some critiques, which I think he would have done great if he had done it that way. He just didn't do it that way, and it came off as more of a, hey, I understand you're an artist and a producer, but stick to producing. That's what people were saying, and I don't know. I mean, it came out nice. It just wasn't competitive like the Kendrick Controls verse was. So, we have to argue with that situation.